Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Spirit Society of Virginia. We'll start our meeting tonight with a message from the book Happy Life, psychographed by Joanna De Angelis through the mediumship of Chico Devoto Franco. And then, right, the message is number 42. When you undertake a commitment, honor it with your presence. Before you assume any responsibility, think it through to avoid unpleasant situations. Should something keep you from showing up or attending to it, communicate it ahead of time to avoid inconveniencing those waiting for or counting on you. Whatever the magnitude of your responsibilities, always fulfill them all. It's a short one. Thank you. Let us close our eyes, allowing the divine love to envelop each one of us, opening our hearts and minds for this therapeutical moment, inviting Master Jesus to touch our hearts, inviting the good doctors and nurses to enter the Spirit Center, our homes, wherever we are. And let us express to God our gratitude for today's day. Dear Mother, Father God, we are blessed every time that we walk into the center, that we are allowed to be here to receive knowledge, treatment, exchanges in both realms. We thank you for providing to us this safe haven. We pray, dear God, for everyone in the world that wishes to have a center close by, that they feel enveloped by your love, that they feel your presence, knowing that the good is everywhere, no matter what. We pray for the names that are in the book of prayer, the names that were sent to us by email, through Facebook and other ways. We pray for the many communities around Washington, D.C. And we ask for your permission and under your protection to start tonight's meeting, and so be it. All right. What a book. This book, Life and Sex, Vida e Sexo in Portuguese, has 26 chapters. And today we are on the 16th already. The first part of the book reminds us of the importance of family, without which we can't be here. That begins in a relationship. And It's not.
It's cutting the slides.
It's cutting the slides.
Maybe you take it out and reshare.
Okay, stop the screen. What is this?
It's this. Oh, it's me.
Okay. No problem, no problem. Okay, so try again, right?
Yeah. And then maximize the screen.
I got
I
it.
think that was
Oh, surprising. Let's see. It happens.
Teamwork.
Thank you. Teamwork effort, huh? So, in this book, Emmanuel is going to talk about the beginning. And then, what a blessing for us in this book, because he talks about the true marriage in spirit. Because there are many marriages, not necessarily people are married. And it's a school, he says, so we're learning. And that's so interesting because we see many young people frustrated, and they come like, oh, I want things ready. Because we had an argument, and that's it. The first one in a million, but it's part of it. It's part of it. Not necessarily we're not talking about abuse, we're not talking about violence. We're talking about a relationship of growth where you can see there is progress over time. But Emmanuel says, this progress is not going to happen if we don't dedicate ourselves, if we don't pay attention, if we just leave it alone. We have to keep trying again and again and again and again. And he says, if we find good professionals, good, because many therapists out there will encourage us to give up. But Emmanuel, wisely enough, he brings to us the chapter about divorce. And I can't be simplistic in summarizing, but it's clear when he says, if there is no respect, if there is no this and the other, well, marriage is not a divine thing, it's a human thing. So, well, and I say not divine in the sense of we are not created married to one another. We are learning to grow together. But if one of the parts doesn't want to grow, it says, well, if it's a torture, if it's difficult, if it's going to end up, well, it's okay. I'm not, for the people who are there, not saying, yeah, let's go divorce. But it's understandable. And then he goes on. He goes deeper to help us before we get there. What can we do? Find help, tolerate more, forgive more, till he reaches the scenario where children come along. I know that people on earth dream about the perfect family, right? And many people, majority of people, want to have children as if they are in a dream, like, oh, I'm going to have children. And Emmanuel says, let me show you who they will be, okay? So this is not playing dolls here, okay? It's not a playground, like many parents are doing. Dressing up their daughters or their children like they are dolls in the game of life. No. It's a very serious responsibility. We need to learn to look at our children as spirits whom we've known in the past. Very likely we made mistakes. And now we're back together to do more, and parents are the first one responsible for their children. But there will be times in which we look at the child and we don't feel that love. So that's the new chapter. Sorry, but exactly this is the very chapter we need to talk about.
It's not a very pleasant topic, but look, the spiritist literature is very consoling, but it does not tell fairy tale stories. It's so paradoxical, right? Very consoling, but there's no happy end. Yeah, there will be a happy end one day. Not necessarily now. Not necessarily in this reincarnation, in the sense that we expect, right? But it's always a happy end because there's no end. It's always a continuum. But Emmanuel is going to say the reality. He's going to quote the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 14, item 8. Spirits who incarnate in the same family, especially amongst close relatives, are most often sympathetic spirits, connected by previous relationships that are expressed by their mutual affection during earthly life. Not necessarily they love each other, but they have affinities. They may say, oh, we like cooking, oh, we like the same types of things, we have the same attitude. Not necessarily they love each other, but they are sympathetic. But he's going to talk about the other end. But it also may happen that such spirits are complete strangers to one another, divided by past lives' antipathies that are now expressed as animosity to serve as a triumph. True family ties are not therefore blood ties, but ties of sympathy and similarity of ideas that connect spirits before, during, and after their incarnations. So what happens about those that we don't get along? So Emmanuel is going to start saying this. In every department of the human family, we are faced with the occurrences of innate aversion. It's good when parents realize it, because when we see parents masking it, it's even worse. They realize it. Like this colleague of mine in the past, he wasn't a spiritist, but he understood about reincarnation concept. So he turned to me, seeing his 3-year-old son. He had other children, this youngest one. He said this way, man, when I see this guy, and the boy was only 3. He said in such a way, like, this guy, I know we weren't friends. And the poor boy was only 3. And you could see the animosity, this innate aversion. It's born with. Many mothers will experience difficulties in their pregnancy because sometimes a lot of nausea, a lot of bed resting, it's because sometimes it's either their spiritual bodies are clashing, or there is this inadaptation to the vibrations of the other parent, sometimes, or that this spirit is of inferior order, because high spirits will never make us sick. Okay. So though the happy pregnancies show that there's affinity, higher vibrations. It's important for us to think about it. It's important to ask our parents, if we can still ask, like, how was the pregnancy? If they can say, because sometimes parents don't want to say the truth. Because they're like, oh, I don't want to tell you that I didn't like being pregnant, right? I loved it, but not every woman does. Not infrequently, and I kept this not infrequently as he said it. Because I tried to change it, Mentor Joseph said, don't change it. Because I said not infrequently is not equal to frequently. He said, no. He said, change and read it again. Frequently, that means another thing. Not infrequently. So think about it. These wise spirits, they know exactly the wording. Sometimes we read it so strange, but it's not by chance. Not infrequently, Parents and children, siblings and other relatives repel each other from the first contacts. The womb, when they are just born, sometimes grandparents, uncles. Because when a good friend is reincarnating, we feel it pulsating inside of us. When a not so good friend is coming along, we feel irritated, we feel different, and we think it's the work, we think it's this. No, it's your old enemy coming back to live under the same roof, and now you have to take care of this being, who is a child of God, by the way. Clearly verifiable the phenomena of hostility between adults and children. These are Emmanuel's words. Brought by the cradle's imperative to day-to-day intimacy. It is real. Sometimes they feel it right off the bat, and they start stranging themselves. No wonder we'll see couples separating, because that child that is coming along is not bringing them together. Somebody was in the triangle. And he says more. There are parents harboring dislike for their own offspring ever since this offspring came into their homes. And there are children who are in enmity with their own parents as soon as they master the mental field in the labors of incarnation. There are children who beat their parents. They beat them. They turn them to the police, to the social service, like nothing, right? And they say, but my parents, but you don't like them either, right? You didn't make their lives easier either, huh? Like Chico Xavier, an angel. The problem is, can we recognize this? Because majority of parents can't. It's a taboo. They're like, no, but I like my daughter, I like my son, but they're annoying. That's how they like their children. But they are annoying, so you don't like them yet. Because when you do, you just like them. With the annoyance, because you don't feel as an annoyance. So we need to recognize it in order to change. Rooted in, now he's going to tell where it's coming from, right? Rooted in the labyrinth of less happy existences, certainly the problem of negative reactions, guilt, remorse, inhibitions, revenge, and so many others is present in the family context. The hatred accumulated in internships of the past is externalized through manifestations in the pathology of the mind. In the past, well, we know that previous lives were worse than this. So if this is not good, it's better than the previous ones. We are more evolved in this life than we've ever been. But if you watch the movies that Netflix, Prime Video, and others have extensively offered, we'll see the history of humankind, and we can tell our past very easily. It's all about this competition, discord, revenge, betrayal, cheating, and jealousy. And in this life, we're learning a different way. But the people whom we had our struggles come back together when they are ready Not every time. Sometimes it's going to take many reincarnations till we encounter that enemy. We need to have muscle. But when we encounter, it's a sign we have the muscle we need. So here is how he outlines the emotions that go through in a family that are the signs that this encounter is coming from previous lives where we didn't be the best we could be to each other. So whenever there are negative reactions, guilt, remorse, inhibitions. It's interesting when he talks about inhibitions, it reminds me much of autism because it's about the spirit and the family circle. They don't want to be here. Autistic children, as Chico Xavier once said, they don't want to be here. The spirits don't want to be here. They were pushed to reincarnate. Now we need to talk to the spirit to say, to convince them that this is good for them. Not every spirit knows that they are reincarnating. And you can tell by their choices. When they enter drug addiction, you already know. They were not prepared in the colonies to reincarnate. These were kids who reincarnated after passing through a time in the lower zones. And they were not prepared to reincarnate. Some don't have the opportunity because they are not ready to be in the colonies. So they reincarnate and you see it in the pregnancy. You see it already. You know, the parents fighting all the time. Because these spirits have everything to do with that. Because if an angel is coming, there's peace. And the vibrations affect the environment. And then there is revenge. And you said, no, revenge. Okay, let's talk about little revenge. You say to your child, look, when you eat, you have to eat with your mouth closed. And then when you least expect, they look at you and say, Mom, what about you? You're not eating with your mouth closed. Right? This is revenge. We think it's not, but it is. You share your vulnerability with your partner, and your partner throws it in your face when you are arguing. That's revenge. We're talking about big revenge. No, we're talking about the day-to-day revenge. We need to stop it. We can't go there. That's cruel. And that's enough for making the case of divorce. We're talking about these things. Because it becomes toxic. In psychology, we talk about toxic relationships. And toxic relationships are not only where there's physical abuse or sexual abuse or verbal abuse. It's also when there is disrespect, lack of consideration, indifference. That's cruel. And he's going to say the hatred accumulated in previous lives will manifest in pathology of the mind. What is he saying? Mental illnesses, pathology, psychopathology, pathology of the mind. So we're talking about mental illnesses, depression, anxiety, etc. That's why when we study in Spiritism all the cases of mental illnesses and all types of illnesses, we say the family is deeply involved in that. We're going to see in Andrea Louis' books, one spirit reincarnates impaired. The brother's not impaired, the sister's not impaired, the father's not impaired, the mom is not impaired, and they think, you are disabled. We are disabled. Because we have everything to do with this. Let's go back to a previous life. Who helped this person do this? Oh, the brother. Oh, the sister. Now we have to walk along and take care of this disability of the mind, of the body. So when there is an autistic child in the family, it's everybody's business. Who created that imbalance? Probably all of us together. So we can't say, I can't take it. We have history. That's what he's saying. And we're going to see this manifesting in the family. The child may have suffered humiliation on the part of the parents. He says here that it's going to happen in this life because they are enemies, that the child will be humiliated by the parents and the tutors, and develop wild, stifling tendencies toward vengeance. When we see these kids taking these rifles and shooting others, I doubt they had loving parents. Huh? They are avenging their humiliation onto society. Because loving parents do not create a mass murder. A mass murderer. Impossible. People don't want to talk about it because we feel sorry for the parents, right? We don't feel sorry. We feel they are responsible for it. Because they did not attend to this child in their feelings. And now they are taking it on the society. And I say we don't feel sorry in the sense of we don't think they are victims. Because they are co-creators of that monstrosity. Some parents, in this life, they will feel the unexpected animosity for their newborn child, harboring jealousy against the child, although suffocating such feeling with beneficial attitudes of convention. It's like, we're not going to show, right? But it shows the jealousy, the spite, the envy, saying, you're not going to get this. I've never got this, right? So it's like there's this competition. And it becomes more evident in teenage years. And then we blame the teenagers. So these are the words Emmanuel used. These are the feelings: humiliation, vengeance, animosity. And we've seen many teens, later young adults and adults, who observed that they took certain pathways as a cascade event of this pathway of clashing with the very parents, if not both, one of them. I remember this case of a man, young man, he was in his 30s. And then the parents came to the SSVA many years ago. We've been here for 15 years, so enough time for us to recover some stories, real ones. And the parents were like, we don't understand why he's in his 30s, he doesn't want to work, he only wants to use drugs. And then we saw, talking to the spirit mentors in the mediumistic meeting, the love triangle. the mother and the son in a previous life, they were lovers. She still feels like, really taking care of him. The husband and her don't get along so well. She gets along well with the son. And the son doesn't get along with the father all too well. But then I asked Mr. Joseph, okay, that doesn't explain the case. Because why is he running to drug addiction? Because, he said, while they sleep, they continue the fight. The son feels guilty because he hates his father. Not exactly the father, he hates the spirit that now is his father. So, but he feels the remorse and he escapes, trying to kill himself because he cannot withstand the emotional pressure. And then I asked, but isn't there another way? He said, Vanessa, he knows he's wrong and he punishes himself into this suicidal mode. See how relationships are complicated? Not every case of drug addiction is that explanation, but that was one of the cases. So we need to pay attention if we are bringing humiliation, vengeance, animosity to the relationships. And he has a long paragraph, but I chose only one because it's heavy duty. Huh? He talks about infanticide, killing their very child. And he asks, how many thousands of existences end annually in the world by the blows of crime? And he says, when you see a mother or father killing their very children, or a stepfather doing that, they are not doing it by chance. They are doing this because of previous lives' enmity, as it says. See how Emmanuel is courageous talking about this? Nobody else wants to talk about this. This could be a scandal in society if we talk about this. Like, what? No, the taboos and everything. But we need to know. And now he marches towards the healing. He says, when this is the case, what to do? Undoubtedly, psychological treatment aiming at mental healing and the sublimation of personality is the ideal path for such patients. So he's saying, when the parents and the children are feeling this way, we need intervention. We need psychological treatment. And he gives the direction. Mental healing, meaning healing the hatred, sublimating personality. Now we need to talk about that. What is the sublimation of personality? What is he talking about? He's talking about the past. No longer we are enemies. Now we are in the same family. Sublimating, meaning transforming that personality. We're no longer the love triangle. We don't need to compete. There's no jealousy, envy, spite. And we'll go back one thing. When Emmanuel talks about humiliation in children, we often see parents doing things that they think it's funny. And in previous generations, it was even worse. I know adults who come to me, adults wearing their 60s, 70s, and he says, Vanessa, I can't get over a scene where my parent was seated with my uncles, and my uncles were laughing at me because I was wearing a certain type of clothes that they thought was not of clothes of boy. And they were laughing. That's humiliation. The man is a spiritist, is already in his 70s, and he's still processing that memory. The inner child is still suffering. Well, he needs to get over it. So he's finding help, but we need people to come and help us and say, we as psychologists cannot say, yeah, everybody was wrong. The true therapist is going to say, what have you learned from it? Because it's a lesson. We can't victimize the person and say, pull you. Say, what have you learned from it? That it hurts. Oh, why do you think you have been through this? But that's harsh. No, that's reality. If you've been through this, there is a reason. If God allowed you to go through this, you don't deserve it. Nobody deserves this. But why do you think you needed to go through this? We needed to know ourselves. But Emmanuel is going to explain. It's urgent to understand, however, that humanitarian doctors and analysts, therapists, will be able to perform miracles of understanding and love, releasing ill people of this kind. But he's going to talk about, look at the word he says, humanitarian. Not all doctors and therapists are like that. Right? Not all of them. Many of them are going to say to us, oh no, these people are not treating you right. It's none of their business. They're not humanitarian. They don't understand the whole picture. That's why he says the study of reincarnation is also called upon to function on the foundations of the work of salvation. Without knowing that we've lived the previous life, it's hard to understand why a parent doesn't like their child. They're going to say, it's because my workplace is very difficult. It's not. Because when you love somebody, you come home. And no matter what's happening in the world, you're in heaven. You see that baby and you feed this baby through the night with joy, even though you feel sleep deprived. You give up your career with joy because you know you are giving the best for the one you love. But for those we don't love, I hear mothers saying, they want to be pregnant, and they say, but I'm not going to stop working. Okay. So they know you're not ready to receive them. They're not going to come. You don't want to give up. You don't want to sublimate your personality. You still want to be like this. It's no longer beautiful for parents to organize their lives around the newborn children. Shame on us, because this is a priority. When a newborn comes, we need to change our lives, including the siblings. We need to say, your life's going to be different. Because you're going to share attention, and you're going to have to love. We can't feed the jealousy and say, some parents, they feed the children into that. They say, I know, they are jealous. No, you are projecting your jealousy. Not necessarily they are, and they shouldn't be. And we needed to encourage them to reconcile, to sublimate personality. Because we are not reincarnating by chance, and he says, Look at the word he says, the apostolate of readjustment must begin with the parents. Okay, stop there. When I was preparing this, I said, I'm going to get rid of this word apostolate because it's very complicated here. And then introduces what I said, but that's the word that explains it all. I said, oh, you see? I said, oh no. And then I read, and then he said, read it again. He said, what do you think apostolate means? What is apostolate? What is it? What does he mean by saying that?
Comes from being the apostle, readjustment.
But what is apostolate? Without the word readjustment, just apostolate. What is apostolate? It means, what does an apostle do? Faithful, devoted, dedicated. I want to follow the Christ, but don't ask me to devote. Don't ask me to sacrifice because I won't. I'll do when it's easy. But this is not easy. When you find somebody to reconcile, it's work, hard work. So you see, apostolate of readjustment is going to be sacrificial. But he says it must begin with the parents. And I hear parents all the time complaining about their children, complaining about their teens. Like, oh my gosh, like we're victims of the children that God gave to us to care for. We're responsible for them. Like teachers who complain about their students. Like, what is the apostolate?
Monday's gonna feel different.
But before God, it's an apostolate. And especially with the difficult students saying, oh, Mamma Mia, what have I done to this spirit? Then now I have to educate. We re-encounter to re-educate. And he completes, since awakened to logic and understanding, parents are summoned by the wisdom of life to appeasement and renovation. What is to appease? Be a peacemaker, right? And renovation. So, if we want to do a PhD in parenting, this is the highest topic, huh? It's the highest and the hardest. Because we are here to renew ourselves. To change ourselves. When you say, oh my gosh, I changed so much after I had my children. Great. Because if we haven't changed, and I see moms especially saying, I'm not going to change. I'm going to do everything. My life's going to be the same. Even my body, they say. And they run to do the tummy tuck and everything. And now it's the beginning of the year. You see 10,000 videos, people posting with their six-pack after children, proving to you that it's possible. Okay. I've never read in any of these spiritist books that a fit mom goes to heaven. That's not in the books. We should take care of our physical bodies, but we should take care of our relationships with our children first. There's a case of an actress in Brazil. She's living in Portugal. I've come to know Luana Piovani and her crazy divorce and the mess. And preparing for this with Joseph, I didn't know the story. And he said, watch this video. Then I watched a bit, not everything. She's talking about the ex-husband, that he's not paying what he's paying. And she's upset, and she's talking about her life schedule. She comes to work at She comes from work at 8 p.m. And the 3 kids, they have two babysitters. And a driver for this, and a driver for that, and a cook for this, cook for that. It's interesting that she's bad-mouthing her spouse, forgetting about her duties as a mom. Because as being a mom is not paying the bills. It's being present. If you are till 8 p.m. at work, who is parenting them? How much room there is for a parent to get into the child's life? They live their whole day and you are far away. So what is a parent to do? To see them when they come back from school and say, how was your day? And they start talking about the 10,000 things. And they say, I can't believe it. Should I talk to the teacher? And then you listen to the story. And you allow them to vent, to go through, to process their emotions, to know what to do with it. Who is going to tell them how to proceed? If you're not there, how can we love someone and not be there? And I know many people are going to say, "Ma Vanessa, what if parents have to work all day long?" There's always a way to work all day long and organize your time with a child. Sacrifices need to be made. But our society is not going to progress if we don't practice this apostolate of readjustment in the family. It's like a garden, says St. Augustine. The relationship, it's chapter 14, item 9 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. He says, the parenting mission, it's like gardening. You see a branch going to the wrong direction, you already cut it out. You don't let it grow crazy. When the child comes home and says, that child did this to me, that one, you said, okay, what did you do? We can't change that child. But you can empower yourself to deal with it. Let's work on that. So we need this time to create peace. We can't be those parents who say, oh yeah, that child did this to you, so next time they do, you say this, you do that. And then we're not reincarnating to progress, we're just stagnated. We don't regress, thank God. But we're not going to progress, and then we lose a reincarnation. Let us observe, however, that in similar domains of the soul, the support of religious faith will rise in relief and therapy. So he's going to say, find a good therapist, then religion. So good luck to the parents who have no religion. Huh? Good luck, big time. With religion, religious faith, it's hard. Without it, it's harder. The support of religious faith will rise in relief and therapy. Because we'll say, God knows. God is watching over you and your friends. Remember, your friends are children of God as well. You need to learn to love them. And because Leandro now plays the St. Francis prayer almost every time you come right on Sunday, Virginia was singing out loud at home. So beautiful. And I said, you see, Virginia, we need first to understand, and then will be understood eventually. So St. Francis' prayer is an example of how we can bring this religious faith to bring relief to our hearts, to therapy. And the children looking at the parents and respecting them. No matter what they say, we need to honor our parents. But what if they're abusive? Well, there's the police. But we're talking about these duels that need to stop. And children need to learn the boundaries, the respect. Because we're coming at a time when they can say it all. Coming from a class right now, the child was talking to the parent saying, go to the bathroom and change yourself and then we'll talk later. But Dad, I want to explain it to you. He was like this tall, 6+. He didn't say a word, he just showed. In that 1.5, the boy was already in the bathroom. 1.5. Said, man, I need to do this. Virginia, did you see that? Mom is gonna do this. No, don't do this. See, at least we count at home. He didn't even count. He was more serious about it. He was like, but respect, that's when religion comes and teaches children to honor their parents, which is a concept that disappeared in society. That's why they don't respect teachers or other adults or even their boss in the new generation, because they have no respect for their parents. But parents need to be made respectable. It's hard to be respected when you don't care, when you humiliate. It is essential to love, to forgive, to understand, and to serve as many times as necessary so that suffering and dissension disappears. That's the direction. We talk about this estrangement in families when sometimes teens and young adults or even adult children go away and they don't talk to their parents at all. It's hard. But when we become adults, we're in charge of it. When we're children, the parents are in charge of it. It's important. So when Emmanuel says religion, the support of prayer, because the good spirits come to help us. The guardian angels of ours and our children are there. They want to help. So let's pray and say, man, I don't know how to deal with this. I need to adjust that. And let us find a way. Remember what Jesus said, reconcile with your enemy while you're walking with him or her. Because sometimes we're like, don't care. It's like, okay, if we meet, we meet. If we don't meet, it's okay. It's okay. They want to go with their friends. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no. Make room for togetherness because this life is defining everything else. And did you know that the children of ours today can be our parents sometime in the future? Imagine. Emmanuel talks about it in the book Laws of Love. Who are these despotic parents? And the answer, your very children in the past whom you taught to be selfish and intolerant. They are the parents. So, as Emmanuel says, the best savings account is taking care of this new generation. Because it's our future. People are saving money and are not loving. And he says clearly, it's essential to love and to forgive and to understand and to serve as many times as necessary so that suffering dissension disappears. A good coach, what does the good coach do? Come on, let's go. Right? If you pay a personal trainer, the personal trainer is going to say, come on, Vanessa, let's do this exercise. Because some bad trainers talk to you more than they make you work. The good trainers are going to say, come on, let's do this. Dun, 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 dun. Next. Dun, dun, dun. And they follow your progress and they want you to progress, to progress, to progress. Good parents are like this. The ones that are devoted, that are apostles of parenting, they're going to focus on the child's issue and are going to focus on coaching them and the child non-stop until they see success. We need to be focused because this life is short. Reincarnation is short. People are right. And we depend on this for immortality. He's going to say that, not me. He's going to say this. In the basis of understanding and the goodness, the children of today rise in the condition of readjusted spirits before the laws of the universe, guaranteeing to the adults the redemption of their own destinies in the paths of future incarnations. So if our child is readjusted, we can see our future of redemption. We succeeded. It's as if we're seeing ourselves in the future. Now, let's talk about the importance of this topic at the time of the earth we're living. Okay? Put in context to see how important this lesson is. In the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 3, it's about many planets, different types of planets, when Jesus said, there are many mansions in my Father's house. Talk about planets. So we see primitive planets, then planets of trials, expiations, and then planets of regeneration, and then happy planets, right? Where is Earth? Down here, level 2, almost 3. We're still 2.90, because we still have a few decades to enter the collective state of mind. But we're still living trials and expiations. To march into the next one, we need to overcome a few things. The world of regeneration is when majority of people in the planet, not all, but majority, they feel that the good prevails already in their hearts. They are not perfect, but they already feel like I need to work on this. They want to regenerate themselves. They are no longer in the torments of life, denying, escaping. So we're far, right? We're still far from it. To reach that level, we need to recapitulate a few things in our lives. And relationships. So no wonder we'll see in this life some challenges that are very special, because it's the ultimate opportunity for us to reconcile sometimes with the worst enemies we've ever had. And now we have muscle to face it, have the courage to love. How can we enter a state of regeneration when we're still in a battle? So these apparent aversions are signs that God is saying, now you are ready to love that enemy, because you already have friends. But in order for us to move to the next stage, we need to clear this up. We can't regenerate if we're still in the battlefield. No wonder Jesus said, blessed are the meek and the peacemakers, because they will inherit the earth. Who is going to stay on earth? Those who are meek, peacemakers. We're not there yet. We want revenge. A family member says something and then we're ready bickering. Showing we're still back in the trials and expiations, almost close to the primitive ones. Like caveman time. You hit me, I hit you. That's caveman time. But the children are learning that we evolve, and those that do not evolve with the earth will go to another planet. And we think it's only bad politicians who are going to other planets, huh? We spiritists are high candidates because we know more and we're doing very little. Very little. There are people who don't know a bit of it and they are doing more than we are. Much more. In every level. Probably will be the Pharaoh in the other planet. Right? You know what I mean? When you read the book On the Way to the Light, we learn, like the ancient Egyptians, for example, the ancient Greeks, the ancient China, all the wisdom they had in the past, they came from spirits who were in a planet like ours nowadays. They didn't want to evolve, but they were intelligent. And they had to go to a more primitive state of the earth, bringing all that wisdom. So you want to be a pharaoh somewhere else? Do we want to be pharaohs? Just keep making mistakes. And then we'll be pharaohs there. But remember, no cell phone, no Facebook, no Twitter, no nothing this. No microwave, no bathroom, no shoes, no stores,
No fire.
no fire. Remember, we have to reinvent the wheel. Somewhere else. So it's up to us. But we need to readjust ourselves, redeem ourselves by encouraging our children to be readjusted. It's a mission. Parenting is a mission. A mission. We need to do our best. To do our best because imagine God entrusting us, His very children. And we say, this child is a child of God. And we're not taking it seriously. I know he is summing up between parents and children, but in future chapters, he's going to talk more. The next chapter, he's going to talk a little more about parents and children. And we understand that he's not repeating himself. He's extending it to the seriousness of being a parent. Yes.
I was watching a video today. I just want to share. It
Mhm.
touched me so much. It was a mom. So she was pregnant, and then the doctors find out that the baby had brain.
Disorder.
Yeah. And then they were like trying to convince her to do the abortion.
Wow.
And then inside of her, she was like, no. Like the minute that they told her, she said that she felt bad because she was like, my baby, I'm not gonna do that. And then she was like fighting with the family, with the doctors. No, no, no. She wanted to continue the pregnancy. And then the way that she like touched me a lot because she was saying that, everybody was against her to continue the pregnancy. She was like kind of, with the family, with the doctor, she had the baby. I think the baby had a part of the brain that was exposed, like it was very bad. But she said that she had so much love for that baby that she didn't care. And then she took care of the baby for 3 years and a half.
And then he died.
But she said that she stops everything. She stops college, and she dedicated her husband and her to the baby.
Wow.
Then I was like, and then she said that the experience that she had with that she started changing the mentality of people who, like, when they have a life inside of them that they have to eliminate because there is a defect, like kind of, she was saying that, but was so touched that.
Thank you for saying this. Because in the book Memoirs of a Suicide, you remember, and it's interesting because we read and we think it's so beautiful, but not to us. It's so beautiful, right? But I don't want this. It's so interesting. I want a healthy, perfect baby. And in the book Memoirs of a Suicide, it shows to us how the suicidal spirits are prepared to reincarnate, and they need parents to receive them because they will come with issues, most likely.
And it also showed the state of the mothers that commit the abortions in their mental state at the hospital there. They had a whole ward for them.
Talking about abortion, actually, this is the next chapter.
Yeah.
And then he goes back into it because it's hard to talk about it. We don't want to judge because we know if we haven't done this in this life, for sure we've done in previous lives. So we cannot judge, but we can evaluate the behind the scenes. When a spirit who is a good friend of ours is reincarnating, we're not going to commit abortion. We only do it when there is animosity. No wonder Emmanuel is tying this chapter into that and then extending to another chapter about parents and children. A lot of hatred in the world comes from abortions. The spirits who cannot forgive. We wish people knew of it, but we need to help society. That's why at the Spiritual Society of Virginia, we have been working as much as we can to support organizations like the Birthright that gives all the support to the mothers who do not have, are underprivileged, so they can have their children and favor life. We spiritists are not discussing our right. Of course, we have the right to choose, but the law of life that comes from God says, God is offering this kid for you. It's a child of God. How can you kill it? Because we don't know better when we do it. And we need to forgive ourselves and help those who are going through this journey, praying, giving goods and support so they go their way. We can never, I see parents telling their children, if one day you get pregnant, don't say that. That's not how you educate your child into sexual life. Respect your body. Respect yourself. Respect the other person. And think before you do anything. But remember, if a child comes, no matter your age, we need to take care of it together. But doesn't mean you're not going to do the most share of it. But we can't push them to abortion by saying, if it happens, you'll no longer be my daughter. You'll no longer be here. You're pushing them to this crime. In Spiritism, it's a crime. That's why we always end by telling, as Emmanuel said, that the true therapy is here. Jesus is the one. Love, forgiveness, understanding, and service. Love, forgiveness, understanding, and service. We need to work on this. And he says, as many times as needed. Thank God we have Jesus, right? Because Jesus is so loving. Jesus is so compassionate. He's never judging us. And he's asking us to learn these things, not to go home and feel bad, but to say, I can do better. And I can help others who are going through this. Maybe we are not going through this with our children, but others are. And maybe we can help. How do we begin? With prayer. There's a book of prayer. We pray for the person. We put the person's name in the book of prayer. The good spirits will help. Sometimes through a word, through a book, a conversation, or the silence of our support. To say, love your child more. And child, please, honor your parents. Because one day you'll be one, hopefully. And you know it's not easy. It's not easy in this world nowadays. They are bombarded by 10,000 things. But we can do our share. And we need to do as best we can. Any question, friends, for Emmanuel? We can answer. We can go back to the slides and find the answer. Any question? Or, yeah, not a comment.
For mothers or dads who experience postpartum depression,
Yeah.
sometimes is that related to
Yes. Very interesting, because Daisy said postpartum depression can happen to the mother and the father. It's not only the mother, but more commonly, we think. We think, because they speak, they say, they show, they have to take care of the babies. The parents usually, you don't observe much because they are allowed to be far away sometimes, right? No longer, because I see parents who take their leave of absence to be with paternity leave. So beautiful to see nowadays. Parents saying, I'm not going to go to work because I'm going to be here all the time. This is real parenthood. Oh, but Vanessa, I have to work. We're not judging. We're saying when you can, you can. Sometimes they can and they don't. But why does it happen? Aversions. Because when a baby comes home, the house is never the same again. Never, ever the same. Will never be the same. But some people refuse to change. They refuse to readjust. They refuse to encounter that one. Oh yeah, I love my daughter, I love my son. Like that. So we don't love yet. Remember this couple, the woman was pregnant of twins. Halfway through, she has to be a bed rest. They have the babies. And they are proud that 6 weeks later, the twins are in a child care and she can go back to work. You almost lost your life. The babies almost didn't come and you're ready to go out of the door. This is the mentality of our society. And we justify in the name of mortgage and in the name of, like a parent said last week, oh, but you know, the child needs to see both parents working so they learn independence. My mother didn't work outside of the home until we were teens. I didn't learn work abilities outside with my mom. I learned with my dad. I didn't need my mom to be in the workforce to teach me the love for work. I learned it with her at home. The love that she had to be there. Never complaining. Never throwing in our face like, oh, she loved being there. And my dad for the love he had for work outside. Children will not love things like that by being far away from parents. And again, when they come from school, they need a parent. They need a responsible adult too. It's like a sponge. They absorbed everything. We need to help them organize emotions. Or they will replicate and they will go into the automated mode of previous lives. And then they lose this reincarnation again. If we talk to them, even if it's over the phone, let's say we are still at work. Okay, take a break. What happened today? Oh, how you're feeling. So what do you think about this? How about if we pray for this person? How about if we write to the teacher? How about if we feel like you can go through this without demanding that from the other kid, or the teacher, or this, or that? Just by doing that work, we're preparing them for the world, for relationships, right? Because that's the most important thing. Yes, John.
It's, all I can think about is children react, go out of their way to kill other children and other parents and themselves. So, and we don't understand why this happened. You know, it's laid out in this book, so here is how it comes about. And to know it and not be able to share it in a way that people will understand, and we keep harboring on this, paying attention to the children, and that's the most important.
But you know what they do? They say, oh, it's child stuff, leave it alone, don't pay attention to it. Célia Regina Jorge, recently I was exchanging messages with her because she does this guidance to parents in the center in Brazil, and we were exchanging impressions, and she said, Vanessa, most often the frustrations of a child will be preparing her for the frustrations as an adult. So don't take it lightly. Like, oh, we need to train this kid to master this, to navigate well, or it's going to be that struggle all over. And it's not in others, it's in them. So we need to empower them to say, why are you bumping on this all the time? People like this. You're attracting it. Where is this coming from? And she was talking about bullying. Celia, the psychologist, a spiritual psychologist, and she says, I have observed in my clinic that most often the child or teen who feels the bullying deep inside, they don't have good feelings about others either. So interesting.
What about the child that you mentioned in the talk about calling the police? This child gets angry and acts out.
Yeah, let's go back to Emmanuel, just so we see. He says here, it's a mutual thing, okay? Though the parents have the first responsibility, the children are not absent from their responsibility. Look at Moses' law. Honor your parents. It's a fourth commandment. We need to observe it. Are you honoring your father? You can't raise your voice to your father or mother like this. You can't hit them. There are children who hit their parents. And they think, oh, it's a child. No, no, no. It's not a child. It's somebody who is abusive. So, look at this. First of all, he says here, the child that suffers humiliation will start stifling tendencies towards angels. Why? They are not angels. So he goes back to saying, right here, there are parents harboring dislike for their offspring ever since this offspring came into their lives, and there are children who are in enmity with their own parents as soon as they master the mental field in the labors of reincarnation.
Does that occur? I'm sure maybe somebody said, I don't know, in children that are adopted.
I've seen cases of both, no matter what. In Spiritism, there's no distinction. If a child is adopted, fostered, or born through the parents, they are children all the same. They are together for a purpose. Everything can surface. We don't encounter each other by chance.
Right. But I understand that. I was just curious as to whether that possibly fostered this disrespect for the parents. And, obviously, there's a problem the child has and reacting angrily and wanting to do damage either to the house or to the parents.
It happens to, in general, it's not specific. So, what is beautiful in this chapter is that they are not blaming the parents. They're talking about both, but saying the parents embrace the responsibility and they must do the first step. It's a mission. It's a mission. We need to love each other. We need to reconcile.
Because sometimes it's hard for the parents too.
Yeah.
They have a difficult child, like you love to be going fast and the child still resists.
Yeah.
So more love, more patience, more,
Yeah.
you cannot give up.
You know, Paula, I wish it were that beautiful. Because in the deepest recesses of the spirit lies the aversion. Because when the other one really loves, it stops. So it means we have to keep on conquering that enemy we created. It's like this. You were cheated upon. It's hard. It's hard to trust. And it's going to take a long effort to conquer it and to know you're not going to receive that again. Look at the case in the book Sex and Destiny. Marita is engaged. She discovers that her sister is dating her fiancé. She discovers that her fiancé is dating her sister. She's not strong enough. She falls apart, attempts suicide, doesn't succeed, but throws herself into an accident. Later, she dies. She reincarnates as the daughter of her sister and the fiancé. How do you look at this both and say, I love you, mom and daddy? The tragedy just happened. You're gonna look at the parents like, can't trust you guys. You're like, we didn't do anything. Really? Let's go back to the previous life. How do you come clean after this? Does 10 years suffice? Oh, but I've made so many sacrifices 10 years after having lost that life. No. It's going to take a whole life or more. So we're still in the works, I would say, Paula. When you give that example, I would say we're in the process. Because when we reach love, aversion disappears. Yes, Carol.
I guess this is why Emmanuel recommends appeasement before renovation, because probably without appeasement, there is a space for renovation. I assume that he didn't put that word order by chance, that peacemaking has to come first, and then as a result, we renew ourselves.
Good point. Think of a house. How can you renew it without taking the trash out? That's peace, right? Once it's clean and open and new, then you can start the renovation.
And some of us may need 1, 2, 3 reincarnations for the appeasement, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reincarnations for the renovation.
Yeah. Is that why you said the 2,000 steps? Maybe many reincarnations with the same spirit over and over again. Look at this. The book 50 years later. There you go. You have the characters in the book. Emmanuel says to Chico Xavier, right? The story of Celia, her parents, and then they reincarnate. 2,000 years later, this couple is parents to the very boy and girl who were creating a mess in their marriage. It wasn't easy. If you talk to Geraldo Lemos Neto and one of the daughters, Wanda Joviano, not the very one because they had several children, she says, oh my gosh, I saw so many issues there. Still, 2,000 years later.
I was surprised that I think it was this week when in the gospel podcast in the morning, someone was saying that Chico's boss was Alcione's father. And then I did the math, like, my goodness, they're still reincarnating. I mean, Emmanuel is reincarnated right now. So they're still, and that's been 2023 years.
Yeah. Arthur Joviano. He was a great man. See, we keep reincarnating, and it's not the easiest reincarnations. Because when they reincarnate, imagine you are a senator, you're in the highest leagues in the Roman Empire, and then you reincarnate in Brazil in the beginning of the 20th century.
Village.
In a tiny town where nobody knows you, there's no glamour whatsoever, right? Because the learning, as Virginia is reminding us, like, is tenfold. It's not only one direction. We never stop learning. So thank you for the comment, Carol. Well, friends, we need relief. We need therapy. We need love, forgiveness, understand. And Jesus is the one. I know some people don't understand Master Jesus, but we're not talking about the blood and the cross and the crown of thorns. We're talking about sublime humanity. Let's find that in us. Jesus came to raise us from our very difficulties. We all have it equally. None of us in this room, incarnates and discarnates, can claim easy peasy. None of us. But we are here for the therapy. Right now, our passes today will be through the encounter with Jesus, okay? But we'll do it without the CD because we no longer have time. Carlos, don't worry, thank you. We'll just encounter magically, briefly, miraculously. Okay, we'll encounter with Jesus and receive the passes as Daisy comes to lead us into the passes. These passes will be the spiritual passes. On Sunday, we'll provide both. All right? Followed by the prayer by Carol. Let us close our eyes. Let us breathe in and out. Acknowledging this blessed reincarnation. And as we breathe in and out, let us transport ourselves to the lavender field connected with the spiritual side of Virginia in the spirit realm. Let us breathe in and out the perfume of the flowers. And as we walk through this beautiful lavender field, we feel that we're not alone. There's someone who has been walking alongside us every step of the way. And at first, we just feel this embrace of love coming directly from His presence. That is hard to even put into words. And as we look up, we see Master Jesus Himself walking right by our side. He has been there along the way, but we just haven't acknowledged yet. And as we, maybe for the first time, feel Master Jesus there one-on-one with each and every one of us, He smiles, and we know that He knows. He already knows exactly what we're going through. He knows of our deepest and hardest challenges. And he doesn't judge us. On the contrary, his smile is all embracing because he knows that we were born to succeed. We were born to renew ourselves, and this life is unique. And as he smiles, he embraces us in a loving and caring hug. Master Jesus knows exactly those who we need to reconcile. He knows of our childhood, of our past, our parents. And he also knows those in our lives, children, partners, loved ones that we are still yet learning to truly love unconditionally. And as he embraces us and caresses our head, he envelops us in healing energies. From our spirit to our physical body, he renews ourselves, whispering in our ears that you are love, you are light, you are joy of living. And I am right here by your side. So anytime that you need, you just need to connect because I am already here. Let us continue feeling Master Jesus' presence. Visualizing him with his divine look as we march towards our final prayer, knowing that we are never alone and that Master Jesus is always with us.
As we continue to feel the presence of the Divine Master before us, we now pray, thanking God for the gift of reincarnation. Tonight, more so perhaps than ever before, we have been blessed with the understanding that every breath we take is a concession of God, that our physical bodies are blessings from on high, that the earth is an illuminated school for the soul, and that the family is a temple of growth and renewal. So, dear God, we thank you for your love in designing perfect reincarnatory plans for each and every one of us, including those of us in the spiritual realm, preparing to return to the blessed school of the earth. As we seek to regenerate ourselves, we visualize now Master Jesus, asking him to coach us in the exercise of giving
more so than that of receiving. We pray for those who are in hospital beds, for all doctors, nurses, therapists, psychologists, so that they feel blessed in their mission to heal, to love, and to serve in your name, dear Master Jesus. We also pray for all refugee camps, all nursing homes, all orphanages, and all schools on the earth, so that the light of your love permeates every single of those environments, and so that love permeates most of all each and every one of our hearts, having come to know that no one comes to our life by chance. We now thank you, God, for the gift of the brothers and sisters that have come our way. And with that in mind, we pray so that through the presence of Master Jesus, we are able to offer a rose of peace, praying for reconciliation in all homes on the earth, praying for strength, hope, joy, and courage for all mothers and fathers on the earth, praying for all children on the earth to be enveloped by your loving presence, all teenagers on the earth to feel your call, Master Jesus, and the elderly to know that they are loved. Thanking you for the beautiful life that has been granted to all of us, dear God. We now ask you for permission with much love and gratitude in our hearts to end this prayerful moments, knowing that we are being called to serve and to love all the more. And so be it.
As we prepare to receive the water, let us just wait a little while we thank our friends. Let's stay in touch. We'll see you soon on Sunday, friends.